Welcome back. Now, there's a growing trend of hackers and spammers targeting social media sites. So, what are the biggest security hazards to these sites, and how can consumers exercise greater caution while putting up personal information? Well, to discuss this today, we're now joined by Justin Du, the Security Practice Director for Emerging Regions at Symantec Corporation. Welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So, tell us about the growing popularity of social networking sites. How are these hackers targeting users? In what way are they?
Okay, so one of the things that I think to cover off first as well is why are they targeting end users? And basically that is that they want to be able to get control of these individuals' assets, be they digital or physical. Right. So if a hacker or a crime writer can get hold of your laptop, as an example, if they can put a small agent on top of your laptop that allows them to control that remotely, they can then rent that laptop out. That becomes a zombie computer as part of what we call a botnet. Now, a botnet is a group of PCs. It can be thousands, it can be hundreds of thousands of PCs that are used for criminal intent. So either for issuing spam or for carrying out denial of service attacks on other organizations. So the other thing that the crime writers are after is they're after your digital assets, which would be things like credit cards, social security numbers, banking information. Organizations are out to trap the users of the social networking sites. So in one particular instance, we're seeing, for example, on Twitter, that Twitter users will do what we call retweeting. So they will send on the same message to a number of people that follow their tweets, if that's a correct statement. Yeah. There's a limit to the amount of information you can put in any one tweet, which is about 140 characters. So if it's something that's very newsy, it's a juicy news item, as an example, people will forward that on. And typically it will have a shortened URL, so a shortened website that other tweet users can click on, and it will take them to the fuller version of what that news site is. So what crime writers are doing is they're actually replacing that shortened URL with a link to a compromised site, where in the background, when you hit that site, the malware, as we call it, so the bad code can be downloaded to your machine, and then exploits can take place using vulnerabilities on your machine. So you may have out-of-date antivirus software, you may have patches for your browser that you haven't applied. As soon as they find these vulnerabilities, they can then launch their exploit, they can take over your machine. But they will take over your machine in a very covert way. You won't actually recognize that it's happening. The secret is, the longer they can own your machine undetected, the better for them.
So what's happening in the Middle East then? What are we seeing in this region in terms of these hackers?
Well, you're seeing the same sort of activity here as you are anywhere else in the world.
Really?
What happens is, if you draw the parallel between sort of mass email adoption during the mid-90s, we had commonality of platform with some of the Microsoft operating system and tools. We had increase in internet penetration, and we had increase in bandwidth. So more and more people were going to the internet, and therefore the malware writers targeted the commonality of the platform. So we saw a lot of viruses that spread using Microsoft applications because it was the biggest denominator to target. And you're seeing the same thing in emerging territories. You're seeing the internet growth in these regions considerably higher than in percentage terms than other economies who have already achieved significant penetration. With that comes a typical lack of user awareness. It's very difficult to drive education in emerging markets at the same rate as the internet adoption.
So in terms of the user, what can they do to protect themselves then?
Okay, well that's a good one. There's a lot that they can do. Just think, if you will, for a moment of Facebook. Facebook have in excess of 500 million users, active users, okay? Yeah. Now, I did some research earlier this afternoon. That would put them, if that was a country, that would be the third largest country in the world by population. It would be bigger than the United States of America.
Oh,
it would be third after India and China.
Wow.
Now, there's no organization in the world, there's no vendor in the world that claims it can educate all of China or all of India, as an example. So just taking one common denominator like Facebook and trying to get a message to all of their users as an individual vendor is absolutely impossible. We believe that the organizations that own those communities should be taking better steps to communicate with their users and to provide them with sufficient controls to protect their online identity.
They need more responsibility, don't they? Definitely, these sites. So, exactly what exactly are they doing there? Are they doing enough, do you think?
They are doing enough to keep the users active and online. Again, one of the things that we look at is there's got to be a balance between the level of security that we try to drive within an internet experience and the stickiness of the customer. If security is too harsh, then these people will take their clicks and take residency somewhere else. So
yeah.
the people that design these websites and these communities need to find the balance between the two. But the user has a massive role to play in this. We can't claim that the user is completely innocent. They have to educate themselves, and they have to rely on organisations like Symantec. So it's a mixture of technology and knowledge. They need to work with an organisation that looks at, as Symantec do, the data and the individual. The medium that we use to access that data will become irrelevant. It won't matter if it's a smartphone, an iPad, your laptop. That will just become irrelevant. What's important to you, and therefore to the crime writers, is the data and your identity, and being able to tie those two together to make sure that only you get access to your personal and private information, and that you can share that identity with a third party, be it a bank or a financial institution, for you to then be able to access online funds and online transactions that way.
That's all we've got time for. Thanks so much for coming on and chatting with us.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from the business desk. You can write to us, though, at ib@city7tv.com. Up next, June Wrigley is back with the news.